What you're looking at here is a 2015 Cooper OVW streetlight. This is a Texas-specific fixture derived from the 1979 Westinghouse Canada 4th generation OV25, hence why it quite literally is the modern OV25. This shares everything with the Canadian OV25, which was produced until fairly recently, except the reflector and a few other small minor details. But effectively, obviously also full cutoff. It's the same fixture, and in America we got our infamous or famous, depending on how much you like or dislike it, boxy 4th generation series of Silverliners for the medium and small lineup with the exposed slip fitter and such, which were cheaper in design overall, made to be easier installed, which I do. I mean, it was easier to install, I'll give them that, that's fair, but it kind of sacrificed looks and quality over time, as we found out. Canada did not go that route, obviously. Westinghouse Canada just decided to shorten the OV25 a little bit, make the door kind of deeper by a hair. This part right here, on the regular OV25, it has a much shallower angle. So it's not nearly as... It's almost like an OV50 door a little bit, in the sense that it goes a lot further down towards the glass. And it actually seems like these have a sharper glass angle too. So, you know, minor differences. They also moved the photocell to the middle, which you can't even see that here, but when you go up to it, they move the photocell to the middle, just like a 1965 to 1969 second generation model, which actually this is down here. So, it's pretty neat. It is literally the modern OV25 for the United States, but only Texas got them. So no one else has found these anywhere else, because they are not even a cataloged fixture, actually. Nobody knew what these were until Jeremy Leggett, or Funky Bulb, actually got his hands on one like 20-something years ago now, and then found the catalog or model number inside, and it's called the OVW. So before that, everybody just assumed these were Canadian OV25s, rightfully so, because they kind of are, in full cutoff, whenever they'd travel to Texas, or even those who already lived here. So, yeah, there's only two places that you'd find the name for this. The TxDOT specifications manuals, which are actually on the internet in PDFs, and actually having one of the fixtures to look at it, because there's no other record of these existing that is publicly accessible. Obviously you can't, look at receipts or anything like that from when they buy these or order these. So it's a custom designed fixture to maximize forward and side light throw with a full cutoff lens, which is something TxDOT requested back in the mid to late 90s, because we continued to get wider and wider freeways, and they wanted to maximize the efficiency of their fixtures to use a little bit less. Because with drop lenses, you had to use a lot more fixtures, and while it was a good distribution, there was a lot of dark spots in the far lanes. Say they're in the middle, you would have the far right lanes somewhat dim comparatively to the middle or right beneath the fixture. But with these, it throws light pretty much equal brightness all the way across 4 to 5 lanes and even more. It's insane. It's absolutely incredible the way these work. So they just compiled this together with the Westinghouse / Cooper / Crouse-Hinds Canada OV25 housing, with Cooper OVD / F / Y reflectors, as you can see here, and then target level for TxDOT, because they've been using those since the 70s with original OV25s, and M400s and such. And then I guess TxDOT specific ballasts, it seems, because boy, they're huge in here. I mean, seriously. So for a comparison of what the reflector looks like, we have this here, which is really made for HPS. You can't, on a full cutoff setup especially, use mercury or even larger metal halide bulbs due to the fact that the socket and bulb are so close to the glass or the reflector. Unfortunately, I've already tried. I have a coated HPS lamp. It's BT37, and yeah, it does not fit with the door closed. Sadly, I'd have to have a sag lens or a drop lens for that to work. Meanwhile, the OV25, which this is from 1965 here, has a much deeper reflector, as you can see, that is made for mercury lamps, obviously, because, you know, that's all they offered during this time. And that, for some reason, was not considered, even though those have really good distribution. So, and the reason it's floppy is the hinge is off the door. I took it off for reasons. But anyway, so yeah, this is definitely not normal for even the Westinghouse Canada stuff. I do not know if the socket mounts, or sorry, the reflector mounts are identical. I assume not, though, for these, because this latch is actually the same latch, seriously, the same latch that is in this 1965 OV25 down below. It even has the same reflector tab mounting. It's a little fork, looks like this, kind of. It's above the latch on the top part. You can't see it because of this bracket that mounts the reflector. But I suspect that the Canadian OV25s, which anybody who has one who is Canadian and watches this, please feel free to fill me in on like what is the same and what's different, because I don't have one of those yet. I would love to have one. If anybody's selling one, let me know, because it'd be pretty cool to have. But for now, I don't know. Maybe this is how the reflectors mount on those, maybe not. I'm wagering they probably don't mount this way, but maybe I'm wrong, because this is obviously not your standard reflector. There's a lot of room between the top of the fixture and the reflector, since it's a pretty shallow reflector. It has a neoprene gasket, which is just kind of weird foam synthetic thing. It is new old stock. It was new in the box, but the adhesive, you know, has failed from being stored, so it's not perfect, but it seals pretty well whenever the glass is pressed against it, so it's fine. The ballast is massive and is a quick connect, almost like a power pad from American Electric or ITT. So you unplug this, and then you just loosen these screws, and it just slides off in a tray, and you can just replace it. I don't think TxDOT's ever done this, but it is possible, obviously, to do. And it's pretty cool. It makes for cleaning really easy, because you just unplug this and it's one and done. So you don't have to worry about possibly the spade connector falling off the wires or anything like that. I guess this is some kind of fuse, it appears to be. Yeah, 250 amp fuse, which is interesting. It's a weird looking fuse, but I guarantee that's what that is. It's an inline fuse. And then it also has a shorting, or not a shorting, but a short circuit diode to protect the fixture and ballast from a short circuit. Say if a pole gets knocked over or whatever happens. That's kind of cool. So it uses the 3rd and 4th generation USA and Canada studs for a slip fitter with springs above them, which is really cool. That way, when you're trying to put it on a fixture, it doesn't try to like get stuck on the threads or anything when you're trying to put the arm on, or put it on the arm, I mean. So it's kind of neat. Does use obviously a Bakelite / black plastic threading, or terminal block. I'm sorry, I'm just tired. This is like the 3rd take of this video. I'm not even gonna bother making another one. So that's kind of interesting, because the OVMs do use the same porcelain terminal block that old Westinghouse has. And yeah, this ballast is freaking massive. And it's 400 watt high pressure sodium, so it's S51. This is a 120 to 240 ballast, although it also goes 277. I don't know why I didn't list that. It is made in 2015. There's the catalog number, OVW, and batch. So it has a Texas on it, T. It's 15th week of 2015, so it's sometime in April. And yeah, so pretty cool. Pretty cool, really well made. It uses the 4th generation USA and Canada, and Cooper, continue this hinge design beyond that, where you can remove the door, because previous Westinghouses, you had to unscrew the hinge off of the fixture, which isn't hard, but it doesn't come off as easy, which is a good and a bad thing, depending on how you look at it, I guess. And the casting is stupid thick. It's genuinely well made. This is the best modern Cobra head fixture out there, honestly, made within the last 30 years. This absolutely wipes the floor with everything else. And I mean that from an unbiased perspective, because unfortunately most modern stuff is not made very well, which is a shame, because it's still cool that Mercury Vapor was produced up until 2008, and Pulsar Metal Halide is still made today, along with HPS, but they're just not as good. It also has a kind of textured Cooper finish, which is something they started doing with the OVMs, actually, back in 1986. 1986. Which is cool. I am 99% sure that these ballast terminals, screw terminal standoffs, are the exact same spacing as old Westinghouse. I'm probably going to put that to the test pretty soon, because I'm curious if the OEM Westinghouse ballast from this guy down here will screw onto this. My money is that it will, and I guarantee you also the original socket mount and reflector mounting for this side from the older OV25s will probably also bolt up, and I know for a fact this latch will bolt up. So it's crazy how much old Westinghouse DNA this thing really has. It is also quite literally the same casting thickness as older OV25s. I mean, this thing is just a beast. And all my biases aside, because yes, Westinghouse is my favorite brand, and I really like where I live, and it's super cool that something like this is just exclusive to where I live. I mean, that is pretty awesome. All of that aside, this thing is very well made, and they did make 3 experimental versions of this in Pulsar Metal Halide, but they were 250 watt with the ED28 lamps, because, as I mentioned earlier, you can't put anything bigger in here without a sag or a drop lens, which, by the way, you will see an OV25 or OVM lens on this, because I have always wanted to do that. There have been rare exceptions where sag lenses and regular OV25 Holophane Enduro lenses have ended up on these, either intentional or replacement. I'm not 100% sure, because there were so many of them the same that I'm kind of thinking it was intentional. And it looked so good. It looked really, really good. It was exactly what I thought it would be and more. So, definitely cool. I got quite a few of these new old stock, along with all of my local lighting friends, because there were a bunch of these on Facebook Marketplace that were never used, new in box. They came with the lamps you see here, which is a 400 watt Sylvania Lumelux anti-cycling lamp, and a shorting cap, which is cool. These almost always have the shorting caps, but Texas Department of Transportation always ordered these with a photocell socket. I have seen them use photocells on these. It's very uncommon, but I've seen it. Oh, okay, I'm just going to struggle on putting the photocell back in, or the shorting cap. That's nice. Well, you could only do it wrong twice. There we go. This way. Alright, anyway. So, yeah, I've seen some photocells on this, but generally they look just like this when they're installed, of course with the door closed, with the shorting cap, because nearly everything is relays with their highway system. Now, these have also appeared on city streets, city traffic lights, wooden utility poles, not owned by TxDOT, and also steel or aluminum utility owned street lighting poles, again not owned by TxDOT. So they're not exclusively the highway department. They have gotten around to utilities, traffic departments, and the municipal levels and so forth. But they're again exclusively in Texas, and they are sadly endangered as LEDs are the standard for highway lighting now in new installs, and of course when a fixture like this goes out they put up an LED now, which is how these came to us. They were auctioned off. I guess they were just sitting in some warehouse unused, possibly for a project that ended up getting the lights switched to LEDs, and so they just, which I'm glad they sold these off instead of trashing them. And then they ended up with a guy who wanted to use them at a church, but then they wanted LEDs. So then he's like, okay, I guess I'll just sell them. So, yeah, pretty rad. And I don't remember who found the listing first, but these have been up for a while, and we finally agreed that we should start going to get them, even though it's like 2 hours away from where we live. And so the first wave of these was picked up in a literal monsoon by a lighting collector and YouTube member, Devontae, who goes by the name of Form 109 on all of his socials like that. So he got a few. I think he got 2 or 3. No, 3. Yeah, 3 the first day. And then him and I went back to get another one on the next day. And then I drove him and another friend who's Highway 125 on Lighting Gallery and That Texan Collector on YouTube. And we went and got the last 2 left. So this is one of the ones that Devontae got the first time. This is the one that he is keeping, actually, as well. The rest of them I am keeping. I have like 5 in here. It's ridiculous. I've actually already had one of these anyway, but it was used, or is used, and has a bad cap. So it's not as fun to use. I need to replace it, I know. And it's a little beat up, you know. And so the fact these are new old stock is really great. They're brand new, never used until now. And of course they look awesome. So yeah, I'm not going to do a video, or in this video I'm not going to show the operation of the fixture because it is now 18 minutes and all I've done is yap about how awesome these are. But considering these are a literal dying breed that no one else besides people who live here or have gotten them here and dispersed them to other collectors, which has happened but it's not very common, will get to see these, so I figured it's worth properly documenting and, you know, doing a nice overview over this fixture, since now they are being taken down constantly. Like probably tonight, as I make this video, some are being removed somewhere in the state for LED junk, because that's just where we're at, unfortunately. And I get it from a cost perspective. If you really want to think that, you know, 480 volts, 400 watt sodium, you know, one fixture, yeah, I know it adds up, but it uses so much less energy, like actual amperage, on 480 volts, which usually these things are, than, or uses less, I should say, than a 120 or 240 volt fixture. That it's just, I don't know. I'm not sure it's actually that it really makes up for the initial cost of these LEDs being nearly, if not a grand a piece, you know, per fixture. So, you know, what do I know? I'm just a lighting enthusiast, and there's very likely I don't see the full picture for why they're doing all these LED conversions, but a lot of these were installed within the last 7 years and only lasted about 4 to 5 of those years that they, you know, the highways had been redone before becoming LEDs, so they didn't even have a chance to go through the first lamp. Like they were still on their first bulbs, and then they got replaced and trashed, because unfortunately everybody now trashes these things when they take them down due to liability reasons. So when really a lot of us could be enjoying these, because there are so many of these to go around if they would just let us have them, the ones that are being removed, that everyone in the community could have one if they wanted one, or multiple. And they could even be used elsewhere, like in places that want to use high pressure sodium still. This is perfect. I can think of so many places within my area that could use the 150 watt versions, the 250 watt, and the 400 watt versions, which is what you see here. So, and with their 480 volt, most of the setups around me are 480 volt with relays, so they would just pop right on and look great, because some of the lights around me are already over